everybody, welcome back to Touching Grass Podcast, and as you can see on the screen, the best team of all. And if you just can't see that small, it's the Boston Bruins. Today, I'm gonna do something different because, as all hockey fans know, and as pretty much all Canada knows, hockey is back. So obviously, I have to talk about my Bruins. So let's just get right into it and go to the roster. So this is the projected roster that they have so far. David Pastrnak, obviously, he's going to be the number one line mate for years to come. Now, immediately, it's already different because we have Bergeron, one of my favorite of all time players, gone, retired, unfortunately, because of last year. I think he was getting up to that age, and I think he just decided, you know what, I have a Stanley Cup, I'm going to hang up the skates I'm going to leave on my terms. And he did. He left on his terms. Fortunately for the team, it wasn't the best of terms. Playing-wise, I mean, probably not off the ice-wise. They all probably knew. They were lucky to get him back for this year. So now Pavel Zacha is going to take his spot. I like Pavel Zacha. He did amazing with Pastrnak this last year, and they didn't have a full year. And last year, I even said this is going to be a special year for the Bruins, and it was up until the playoffs. They now hold the record. I mean, yes, and everybody says records, oh, that's great and all, but you want to win the championships. I mean, that was still a huge boost morale for a team like this. A team that really only had two guys left on the 2011 roster. That was Bergeron and Krejci. Oh, and Marchand. Sorry, three guys. Only three guys left on the 2011 roster. And now you have basically a whole new squad of kind of the Boston and like Patriots and like the Celtics and I feel like I'm missing the Red Sox way. It's a team just kind of filled to the brim with new guys / guys that were like here, but when they come on to Boston, they always are able to take that extra leap. But Zacha was here last year, and he did incredible with Pastrnak. And then his line mate is surprisingly not Brad Marchand. I think they're trying to split up the lines. I mean, this is just projection based, so Brad Marchand could easily go back to the first, but maybe it was Brad Marchand's choice to go to the second. Maybe he's okay with going to the second. Maybe they just want to see how JVR is going to do. I've always liked JVR. I'm a Boston fan. I grew up in a Toronto family. And so I've seen a lot of JVR play over the years. And then when he went to Philadelphia, everybody's like, oh, his career's over, his career. But I mean, Philadelphia hasn't really been that great of a team. Like, in the last, since the 2000s, because that's as far as I can remember for hockey, they were a good team. They were the Broad Street Bullies in the like 80s and 90s, I think. I was born in 96, so I won't know that much information prior. But they were a good team, and then they just all of a sudden kind of turned into an purgatory team. Just that team that kind of stays right in the middle. Sorry about that. Stays right in the middle and doesn't really rebuild, but doesn't really necessarily build for the playoffs. They kind of just are okay with being that mediocre team. And there's probably a lot of Philly fans who are wanting to rip my head off. I know one too. One that comes to my mind. But so I think JVR is going to really work on the first line. It's actually interesting to see because it made me think of it. Charlie Coyle is not in this lineup. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's injured for the first week, or unless I just skipped over his name. No, yeah, Charlie Coyle is not. That's so interesting. I didn't notice that Charlie Coyle wasn't in this lineup. So once that's probably why Matthew Portis is on the second line. But I think this second line is going to go really well together. You have Brad Marchand, the small, quick, like rat. Like that's all you can kind of think of as the rat type player, the agitator, like the guy who just gets under your friggin' nails and skin, and you don't like it, but you would love him on your team. Paired with Jake DeBrusk, who in his contract year had the best year, the best season of his career. And I think now he's going to take his game to a whole new level because he's going to be paired with Brad Marchand. That's going to be huge for his game. And then Matthew Portis, he's an unproven prospect, but I liked when they picked Matthew Portis. Let me see what his size is. What he's it has him in center, but I don't think he is actually a natural center. Oh, weird. His name is not on this list. Maybe they dropped him, but that is super weird that his name isn't. Is this? I don't think. No, this isn't old because they didn't. I made sure it wasn't old. Anyways, whatever. He's a pretty big guy. I think I want to say he's like 5'11", 6. So I really think that's gonna work out. And a lot of people underestimated the Bruins last year because they thought, oh, it's Bergeron's probably last year. He might not even come back this year. He came back and he tore it up. Like, he was amazing, and they have now a record. Like, he's a part of a team that has a record book. He's a part of a team that has a Stanley Cup, and it's on the same team. So I think that line is gonna do very well. But whenever Coyle comes back, he is going to probably replace Matthew Portis unless Matthew Portis does amazing. Like, they're not gonna take Matthew Portis out because he's doing amazing. They would probably actually put him down here, and they would probably take out Jesper Fast just because he's 5'11". But why I like this third line a lot is because the fourth line. The fourth line actually gives me a lot of 2011 vibes with Lucic and Geeky, because Geeky, I believe, if it's going to show me, Geeky's 6'3", and Lauko is 6. So, I mean, 6 feet is still pretty tall, but you have a 6'4", just bruising type player with a 6'3", kind of a little bit more skilled player. That's like a Daniel Palais. And then you have Jacob Lauko, who he's just an average body, but he played fantastic. I can't think of a comparison from that line that Lucic was originally on, but that was the line that won it for Boston in 2011. So I think Lucic coming back, I think that's really gonna help. But with Coyle coming back in, what they may do, because Geeky is also 6'3", and Trent is also 6'3", so they may move Lucic up and put Coyle here, and then I guess they would just put Boquist would come down here, and then they would have two lines of 6 feet or taller guys, and that's huge for the bottom third and fourth. And then we get to the defensive pairings, and I think this is going to be an understatement. This is going to be an underrated defensive line that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, and that's Shattenkirk and Forbett, both big guys. I'm pretty sure Van Riemsdyk or Shattenkirk. See, he's 6 foot, and that's big for a defenseman. Like, he's 212. Like, he's a heavy defenseman, and he's always been a really good underrated defenseman. And I think that's going to really work, because then you have the third line locked down. Those are your two guys. Then if Grzelcyk starts playing bad, you can kind of swap Coyle there or Carlo there. If for whatever reason McAvoy starts playing bad, you can put him down there. We have a good problem here where we have too many good defensemen. Obviously, Shattenkirk may not play on the first line, but you never know. Forbett played a couple games on the first line because when you need that big body, that I think that's really going to work out for them. And then we'll look down at the first power play unit. Again, these are all subjective to change. Brad Marchand and Pavel Zacha, that's going to be an interesting mix. But Pavel Zacha, I'm glad that they're mixing up. Oh, that's so weird. Charlie Coyle's on the second pair unit, but he's not playing, unless I just completely skipped over. Yeah, no, he's not here. Oh, it says Morgan Geeky twice. I didn't even notice that. So actually, so my point is proven. They're gonna put Coyle here, and that's gonna be a big line of 6 feet. I had it in my head. A big line of 6 guys who are 6 feet tall, 6 feet or taller, and that's gonna be huge because then you have all the skilled guys here. Like DeBrusque isn't that tall. He's only, well, he's 6 foot, but he's not known for his height. Matthew Portis, oh yeah, he wasn't on the list for some reason. And then Brad Marchand, we all know, is small. But like, that's kind of the skill line and then the big line. But the nice mix with Boston is Pasternak's tall, Zacha's tall, Boquist is small. Like, it's a good mix of guys. And then for defensemen, you have huge guys except for Matthew Grzelcyk. They may drop Matthew Grzelcyk, just because I think of his height. He is a really good player, but I just think they're going to drop him because of his height. But he's going to get dropped here. They may put Lindholm. That's the good problem of having all of these good players. And I'm glad that they're mixing up the power play unit where, yeah, you have your 3 best players, but then you have Pavel Zacha, who's playing great with Pastrnak, but hasn't played with Marchand. But if those 2 players played amazing together, who's to say these 3 players can't play amazing together? And then Jake DeBrusque just came off a record year, so let's throw him on the first power play. There's 82 games in the season. This is bound to change back and forth and yada yada. Like, I could say, Forbett's gonna play on the first line D, and it's not that crazy because there's 82 games. You never know. And then for the second power play unit, we have Matthew Portis, and I'm glad they're trying to give Matthew Portis more minutes because the Bruins don't really have that many prospects. Like, we keep trading away a first round picks, which, I mean, I said it a couple years ago, but you kind of need your first round picks you kind of need picks to have prospects. It's the whole thing. Like people complain about this team that they don't have any prospects, but you kind of need your picks for that. But I get why they're trading them away for that chance, for that chance of just improving their team. But like, they're not really giving the prospects a chance to grow even before seeing them. Like it just takes me back 2015. A lot of people talk about that draft because the Bruins could have easily set themselves up for the future, but I instantly moved on. The team has moved on. There's people who haven't moved on, and that was like 7 years ago, probably more or less. I don't really know. But we just have to take it one season at a time. But the nice thing about the nice thing about scouting is, the nice thing about not having a first round picks is we can kind of pay way more attention to the second and third and fourth rounds and try and find those gems, like a Brad Marchand who was picked in the third, like a Bergeron who was picked in the second, like a Lucic who was picked in the second. But the issue is McAvoy was picked in top 15 pick. David Pastrnak was picked at the end of the first. Frederick was picked at the end of the first. So we do kind of need our first round picks. I would just hope that it hasn't really worked out for them in the past trading the first round pick. I mean, sometimes it has, the most recent first round pick unfortunately didn't work out, where we traded a first to get Tyler Bertuzzi, and now he's on the enemy's team, and actually we're going to talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I personally think that we should just keep our first, unless the deal is for like a clear cut need, and a player who's doing amazing, not necessarily like a Rick Nash or my brain is completely blanking on trades, but just like I don't want like another Rick Nash type deal where we trade for a 35-year-old and then he gets injured within like half the season and then we've lost out on that pick. But we are doing much better than the enemy team, because they had a first round pick and they gave it for Nick Foligno, and Nick Foligno then basically instantly played for Boston the next season. But it's kind of the same thing with Bertuzzi, but we're going to talk about that in a bit. That was a little surprising that they made the money to re-sign Bertuzzi, and Bertuzzi wanted 4 years, but then signed a 1-year contract with the Leafs. I'm assuming to pad his stats for a big contract next year, which, I mean, everybody does. I'm not faulting him for that. But let's just continue down this list. So for the first penalty kill unit, we have 3 big bodies with Marchand, which is a very typical penalty unit that almost every team has. You just have your absolute big bodies on the team, but you have at least 2 guys who can score and who can assist. Like Coyle, he's not really known for scoring, but he's a big body who can assist. And when you have 3 big bodies like this, they can just push anybody out of the way. And then when you have the smallest guy on the team, he can just worm his way through everybody. And then the second penalty unit is an interesting one. They have Zacha and DeBrusk, 2 guys who will probably get a lot of playing time together, and I'm glad about that, because DeBrusk just came off of a really good season, and not just because he had more goals than his previous years, but his game is improving. He's being more fluid with his game. He's not being so stiff. Like, he's not just he's not just skating up and being afraid to do his own game. He's now gelling into his own self. Like his dad, Louis DeBrusk, who I never watched, I never saw play. I just know that that's his dad because they constantly talk about him. But his dad was a very skilled player, and Brad Marchand, and Jake DeBrusk is just as skilled, and who knows, he could be better than his dad. A lot of how old is he? A lot of players. That doesn't tell me. He's 26. A lot of players come into their own at 26 or 27, unless you're like a McDavid or like a Pasternak or a Matthews or anybody like that. But right now I think this is really solid. Like, there's not really like a big red flag. The only thing, because a lot of people are probably going to point it out, is the second line center and the first line, but that's only because these guys are unproven for Boston. They have proven themselves. Actually, sorry, Portis hasn't proven anything yet. But I think that's really going to work. And I mean, worst case scenario, there's 82 games in the season. They can easily figure out a solution to that. Like, it's not going to be that hard, because if we look over here, for centers, we have Patrick Brown, who they signed in the off season. He is 31, so he's probably just going to be more depth. But like, what if one of these 6 starts improving? So they're going to put him on the second line and then drop Portis. But then they have Mark McLaughlin, I think that's how you say it. Great player for us last year. Kind of took a little bit of a nosedive near to the end of the season, but I think he's going to be a really good player. He is 6 foot, 210, so he's a heavy body, and so I think that they're gonna keep trying him and see if he can really like figure himself out. And then Magna is just a depth guy, just a pure depth guy, just in case anybody gets injured. I mean, big body. He is 33 though, so it's like he's not gonna be anything special. But you never know. That's why you pick up a guy. Oscar Steen has been in the Bruins farm team for a while now, and I don't think he's really gonna take off. I don't think he's really gonna turn into the team that everybody thought he was going, or the player that he thought he was going to be. And then Boquist, obviously, I think Boquist is gonna keep his well. Now I don't know because I was mixing up names in my head. AJ Greer played great last year, and I'm a little surprised they aren't putting him in, because AJ Greer would probably take over Boquist, but Boquist played skillfully great for the Devils last year. I believe he was on the Devils, but he played great. And then we have my favorite player of all time. I am super happy that Lucic wanted to come back at least for one more year. He has been my favorite player. He's always been my favorite player, just because I like the power forward position. Because it's not necessarily an enforcer, but it's not just the skill guy. It's I'm going to do both. I'm going to knock you on your butt and then pick you up and dangle around your feet. Like, prime Lucic was honestly up there for the Bruins, and I think this is going to revive his career, at least for one season, maybe two. Maybe he wants to come back. He is 35. He has slowed down, but he's still that big body, and I feel that because Boston was such an impact for him, I feel like he's gonna want to give back. He might not be as fast or as skilled as he used to be, but that's with everybody. I would assume that prime Ovechkin is better than current Ovechkin. People would probably say no because he won a Stanley Cup, but I'm not talking about team based. I'm talking about skill based. I would every day take prime anybody versus to the current version. Then we have Anthony Richardson, who I actually don't know. I just saw this signing a couple days ago. I guess they placed him on waivers. That said it for somebody else, but that was about a different reason. But they probably just picked him up just to have depth. So I'm not really gonna talk much about him. But JVL, I did talk about him before, but I think JVL is really gonna work out for us. He's 6'3", he's 212, he's a big body. He would actually work really well with Lucic, and maybe Lucic starts playing better and moves himself up to the second or third line. Or maybe even the first, you never know. Maybe him being back here revives his career and he just starts playing better. And then we have Carlo, we have Forbett, Grizzlick, Lindholm, McAvoy, and then Ian Mitchell and Alec Regara, who we did give offers to. And I'm really hoping this guy can honestly. I guess we put him on waivers too. I was a little surprised, but I liked him just because he's 6'4". He's a big body, and he's only 23. But I guess we put him on waivers because even nowadays it's not about just having a big body. I remember a couple years ago, there was 3 guys who were around Chara's height, but they never turned into official NHL players because they just didn't have that skill. They thought they could make it because of their height, and I mean that's probably why Chara was selected. But who's not gonna select a 6'9" defenseman? But that defenseman also became a captain. He became one of the top defensemen in the league. He was scoring goals. He had a killer slap shot. He beat his own record in the and his record still stands to this day for the All-Star slap shot competition. And then we have Kevin Shattenkirk, who I think that's really gonna work. And then Anton Strowman, that actually he worked out for us. I think it also Oh right, yes. Sorry, he did actually. We did sign him to a contract, but then he signed to play in Sweden. That one kind of sucks because I liked Riley Walsh, but all of these guys who are hitting the waiver wire, they're just depth guys. Like we can easily pick up depth guys, and then you have Jacob Zabor. Oh yeah, I forgot to scroll down to the goalies. So obviously we have the same two goalies coming back, Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, and I like them. A lot of people are like, oh, we should trade one or two. We should trade Swayman or we should trade Ullmark for a certified second lineman. But then the issue is, and I've asked this question before on forums, who's your option for goalie two? And they always say the same answer. They're always like, oh, it doesn't matter. And no, yeah, it does. Because what if say we start Swayman for the first 30 games, and then he goes cold within 10 games, and then who do you want to put in? Like a Martin Jones, or like a, I don't know, some AHL goalie that hasn't played in NHL before. Everybody, well, not everybody, most people, some people, honestly, some people just want them to keep one of them, trade the other one, and then use, I forget his name, it might say it here, use Brandon Boucher as the backup. That may work out, but that's a big may. That's a big if. Like, that is a huge weight to put on an AHL goalie who has, I think, never played in the NHL before. We have 2 star goalies. Why don't we just keep them? We just signed Swayman to a contract. We just, we signed Swayman to a 1-year contract, so we have him at least for a year. And then Ullmark, I believe we have him for 2 more years or 3 more years. So we're good for this upcoming year. Nobody needs to trade anybody, unless Swayman or Ullmark comes out and says, I'm not playing for this team, I want to be traded right now, which I kind of highly doubt, but I understand why Swayman only signed the 1 year. Probably for 2 reasons. One, he was probably mad that they didn't put him in during the playoffs even when Ullmark was injured. And 2, he just wants a payday. But this is a big risk on his part because he's already a great goalie. But I think Boston was willing to pay him this much, but he wants this much. But there's a chance that if he doesn't play good this year or plays bad, he may even get this much. He may get even less than Boston was initially offering. But as the advice that everybody has given you, always have to bet on yourself, and that's exactly what he's doing. He probably wants to be the starter for a team, but I mean, Boston has been playing very good with him and without him. So why would he leave a good team just to be a starter on a bad team? Why would he mess up his stats like that? And so I think this is going to be a really special year for Boston. I'm going to just look up Bruins, because I don't think they have a pick. Totally spelled pick song. Oh yeah, there's a game right now, actually, just a preseason game. Actually, we will see who is scoring. That doesn't help me at all. Here we go. Box score, Jesus. Let's see. Connor McMichael for the Capitals. It's just... Lucic got a goal. Nice. JVR got a goal. And... it says 3-3. Who got the third goal? Lucic, JVR. Oh, defenseman probably got it. Oh. Weird. Super odd that it doesn't show who got the third goal. Maybe it just happened? Whatever. Yeah, we're going to look at the picks just to see what picks Boston has this year. And for a little trivia, if you want it, there's all-time goal scorer Johnny Buick. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, I think it's Buick. Or maybe I'm just mixing it up with Bork. Let's see. Yeah, I forgot about Fabian Lysell. I really hope that they can evaluate his game, because obviously he was just picked in this year. He's probably not going to play this year, so this might be the year that he plays, because they're already putting Matthew Portis in. I actually didn't realize that we still had a first round pick from 21. A lot of people are complaining that we haven't had a first round pick, but we had a first round pick in 2017, not 18. We had one in 19, not 20. We had one in 21. We didn't have one in 22, and we didn't even have a second round pick in 23. But that was because I think they were on a winning streak, and they were just trying to do the all. But I do think that they have a 2024 pick. It's weird that it's not showing me, but regardless, yeah, I really like. There's a couple guys that I'm surprised it didn't show on this list, but it showed Matthew Portis, and I like Frederick Brunet. He's playing really well in the minors right now, and then Mason Lohrei, he's basically a younger version of Carlo, and I really think they're gonna try him out just for a couple games just to see how he does, and I think it's really gonna work out for them. Ironically, they have a guy named Jackson Edward, who the announcer for the game, his name is Jack Edward, and no relation at all. But and John Beecher, and there was another name that people were saying. It was like a Swedish name, something. Can't seem to find it. I don't know. Somebody will probably point it out to tell me later. But I think that's going to be all. I was going to talk about the Leafs, but I have run out of time now. I can talk about them next time. I mainly will talk about the Bruins, but like I said, I grew up in a Leafs family, so the Leafs are always going to be in the background, or always at a family dinner or something like that. But I will just quickly add, it does suck that I can talk for a little bit longer. It does suck that Bertuzzi went to the Leafs, but the Leafs' biggest issue, and they keep doing it, they keep spending money on I don't want to call them has-been players, but like a player who once was. They got They got Max Domi, a player who once was great. They got Cal Youngcook, a player who once was great. They got Ryan Reavis, a player who once was great. And they keep doing that. They keep just grabbing guys and thinking it's gonna work out and spending all of this money, all of this unnecessary money, all of these unnecessary picks. They're in a little bit of a worse situation than Boston. And I get last year they finally got the first round monkey off the back, but not really. The monkey's still hanging on because they won one game. That was it. They won one game in the second round. I wouldn't really call that a win. How do you know another 25 years isn't going to go by and you don't make the second round again? And that's very plausible. Or what if you miss the playoffs altogether? What if you have a squad like this? You have a Marner and a Matthews and a Bertuzzi and a Knives and a Tavares and a Nick Robinson and a Nylander, and you don't make the playoffs. The defensive core hasn't changed. You still have Riley, who's probably pissed off at Tavares because he stole his captaincy from him, because you gave Tavares you gave another player on the Leafs $10 million, and then you gave him captaincy right off the bat. That made no sense and probably hurt Riley, because Riley has been there since the beginning. He's the oldest Leaf on that team, and you didn't give him captaincy? That's a stab in the heart. And the defense hasn't changed. You actually got a little worse. you've had TJ Brody. How great has that worked out for you? Like, he hasn't really been that, like, that star on defense. Like, if you look at Boston again, they have two young guys. They have a star who, again, like Almok, came from a shitty team and now is playing great. The bottom two is still like good players. Like, Forbett came from the Kings and Shattenkirk came from St. Louis or the Rangers, one of those two. He's moved around quite a bit. But then you have Jake McCabe, who, like, for the Leafs, he once was a name. Again, you have John Klingberg. You could have had that guy like 5 seasons ago, and you probably still would have paid roughly the same price. Like, yeah, you saved on a pick, but now he's 5 years older and not as good as he once was. You have Mark Giordano, who's 37. He is not the player who he used to be in Calgary. But the only reason it was working in Calgary is because they had young guys on defense and young guys who could move. The only young guy they have on defense is Timothy Liljegren, and he's been there for like 5 years too. He's not even like the young guy anymore. He's now a part of like the older crowd. The team hasn't changed. Like, yeah, you got Tyler Patuzzi, but you're basically just replacing Tyler Patuzzi with Michael Bunting, who was playing on your first line, and Michael Bunting was just a player who constantly got penalties for you, and that's probably just going to be Ryan Reeves. Like, you basically just added two guys. Great, you got an extra guy, but both of them are just probably going to be a double Michael Bunting. And none of this could actually happen, but the team really hasn't changed. Like, you still have Nick Robinson, you still have Young Cook. Yeah, you got Max Domi, but like, he's not the player he used to be, and you're just kind of picking him. The same thing with Tavares. The second they signed Tavares, I knew that was a bad idea. They only gave Tavares this big contract just because he's a Toronto boy. He wants to play for Toronto. Why is that the reason that you give this guy a contract? That should not be the reason you give him a contract. Yeah, he was a great player for the Islanders, but look at the Islanders now. The absolute second they lost Tavares, they actually beat the Leafs in the standings and in playoffs. Now, I don't know about last year, but I would still put bets on the Islanders versus the Leafs because their team hasn't changed. They have Sam Lafferty on the second line with an unproven prospect who everybody's raving about, but because it's preseason. Everybody was raving about Tavares because he got 4 goals in his first game in preseason. Preseason doesn't mean crap. Like, the guy leading for Toronto right now, and he's not even on this roster, is Connor Timmins. Like, it's preseason. It doesn't matter. And Matthews, they didn't sign a long term to the franchise guy. They gave him a 4-year contract. Wow, 4 years, just so he can get 4 years older, waste his time, and let's say they do make it a more competitive second round series, but then still lose. What is your goal the next year? The third round? What is your goal the next year? If you just keep going year by year, you're gonna waste his contract. You're just gonna waste his time. And he's only, I don't know how old he is. I'm pretty sure he's still young. Oh, weird. I don't know why his name's not on this list. It should be. Oh, I just didn't scroll up all the way. Yeah, he's 26. You've just signed him to a 4-year contract until he's 30. He's going to be playing past his prime. And for what? Just so you could hold on to a franchise guy for 4 more years? I think that you had to have traded one of these 4 guys. You obviously can't trade Tavares because nobody's going to take that contract. There's a horrible contract to give out. You've already locked yourself into that, so there's nothing to do about that. Nylander is on a relatively cheaper contract, and he's been playing. I mean, like they've all been playing great, but I would say Nylander is the safe option to trade. Mitch Marner is the kind of risk option. He's probably going to play amazing on another team, but he's going to play amazing on the Leafs. Like, he's a good player, but he's being paid way too much. And not that he doesn't deserve it, but he's being paid way too much alongside of 3 other guys who are getting paid $10 million. Actually, $10 million plus. And now they want to give more money. Well, they did give more money to Matthews, and he's getting paid more money than McDavid, who he's not better than, and all of the Leafs fans think he is. He is not better than McDavid. I don't know where people thought that he was better. He hasn't done anything in the playoffs. At least the Oilers have made it past the second round. I made it past the first round multiple times. But they haven't changed anything. The bottom line is just 3 what was players. The third line is again 3 what was players, and then they dropped William Nylander, who's not a centerman. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, no, they have right now. They have William Nylander as center for the third line, and that's not really what you're supposed to do. I get they want to try and like spread out their lines and put the like better players like across the whole thing, but Nylander's not a centerman. He has never been a centerman, and you're putting a guy who's out of position with a rookie who has never played with him, and who is kind of at the end of his like tenure, I guess, like his chances. That's what I'm trying to say, is the end of his chances with the Leafs, and you're putting him with a big body who has never played with the Leafs. Yeah, he's a domie, but like you're putting 3 guys who have never played together, and one guy who's out of position, another guy who's losing his chances, and a third guy who I think is out of chances. But you then put Sam Lafferty on your second line. Who is Sam Lafferty? I don't care if he's been playing good. I mean, sure, if he's been playing good, then keep him on your second line. But again, your second line is filled with 2 unproven guys for a second line with John Tavares. Tavares doesn't have any help on the second line. And then wow, you basically replaced Bertuzzi with Nylander. Okay, that doesn't fix anything. Like, yeah, you got Bertuzzi. Yeah, he might play great, but he's probably only going to play great for that 1 year and not sign with you guys. Why would he sign with you? The Leafs haven't made it past the second round. Well, haven't made it past the first round since like the 2000s. Yeah, I know they got into the second round, but they won 1 game. And then you look at the goalie situation, which is just absolutely disgusting. Oh yeah, I forgot they had Jake Muzzin. I guess he's on IOL. That's another player that once was, and it was like I was even excited because I was calling my dad because he's a Leafs fan. Because I'm constantly getting news about them and telling him. And when they got him, I remember I was like, oh yeah, like cool, the Leafs got their guy. And then what has he done for the team? He's done crap all for that team. Like, when he comes back, Liljegren is probably going to be taken out. But again, it's just a bunch of 6 guys who are once was guys, except for Wiley. But Wiley doesn't have any help. He doesn't have a single person to help him out. I'm not even going to look at these because, again, they've just put all of the best players, I guess, except for Klingberg, but they want to try that out. All of the best players on the first power play line. Okay, sure, but how many times do you get a power play? And then their second line is a bunch of unproven guys playing together. The penalty kill is kind of a bunch of unproven guys. You've put David Kampf and TJ Brody and Jake McQuaid, who sounds like a great line, But again, though, all I get it. I get there's enough time for them to get to know each other and know how they play. But like the Leafs really spent a lot of money to just grab a bunch of unproven guys, to grab a bunch of once was guys, to grab a bunch of um uh past their prime guys, because they don't have money. They don't have money to do anything else because the money is taken up with Marner, Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander, and now probably Bertuzzi. I don't know where they got that money from. He signed for like $5 million. Couldn't tell you where that money came from. I mean, it probably actually came from Jake Muzzin's contract. But then when he comes off of IRL, what are they gonna do? Like they gave Ryan Reeves a 3 to 4, like 2 to 3 year contract, and that was a horrible contract to give out. I would have just given a 1 year contract. But this team is just kind of a jumbled mess. And then just to top it all off, they have Ilya Samsonov. Okay, great, good young goalie. Did crap for you because you didn't change your defense. I don't know how many times I have to say you have to change your defense so that the goalie can improve. Look at, not to obviously go back to Boston, but look at Allmark. He went from Buffalo, who had the worst defensive team, and he still had a great record. And then he played for an actual good defensive team, and he played even better. He had even better stats because he actually had good defensemen to help him out. With Toronto, you have Samsonov, who's probably gonna play in way too many games, and then you have Joseph Woll, a completely proven guy. Yeah, he played a good couple of games, but like, you're not gonna have Samsonov play 80 games and Woll play 2. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense for what the Leafs are trying to do. And like, well, if you read anything about the Leafs, if you read anything about the Leafs, any media about the Leafs are always a biased. The media is always biased, or not biased. Yeah, sorry, biased. I was thinking the opposite. They're always biased against the Leafs. They always say it's their year, but then the Leafs never seem to actually change. They never actually do anything. Like, if you compare Boston and the Leafs, they both have very similar rosters, but at least Boston, sorry about that, at least Boston has actually made it past the first round, and like and more. Like in 2019 they went to the Cup Finals. In 2013 they went to the Cup Finals. Even if they are a wild card team, they're still like a top team in the playoffs. If the Leafs become a wild card team, everybody's like, trade them, trade everybody. They suck. They're crap. It's like, no, you just have to make the playoffs. But the Leafs, everybody, and people are saying, oh, they got the monkey off the back, but not really. Like, you really didn't. Like, I don't know what else I can say. So I think I'm just gonna cut it there. I'll rant about them all day. But go Bruins. You're awesome. Stay awesome. And peace.